Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
It's okay. It's okay. No, come on. No. Be quiet. Come on. No, come on. I've got things to do. You just lay still. That's good. No, it'll be over soon. Don't worry, let me just do this. It's fine. Don't worry. Hello, this is your Werewolf Will speaking, and this is Werewolf the Podcast. Hello, this week's podcast is to counter all those people who keep telling me I only bring evil and horror into the world. Well, today I'm giving you 5 short stories where I've helped the world. Yes, how can a psychotic, bloodthirsty, nasty, horrible beastie help the world? Well, here we go. So you have to rethink it. Yeah, you do. I'm actually lovely. Yeah. The Cult of the Infant Saints, a not-so-heartwarming tale of werewolves, rots, and ecclesiastical nonsense. Somewhere incipient in rural Hungary, the sort of place GPS and even roads give up on, and where Lucifer sends postcards from, I'm kind of implying it's hell, there is a village that smells like, well, what would I say, boiled cabbage, wet incense, and things best left under the floorboards, hoping that they won't eventually crawl out. Fenrir and we went there because we were running away from the entire world, which at that point seemed to want to kill us. It's kind of common. Well, we went because it seemed like it was the arse end of anywhere we could maybe hide out for a while. Fenrir and I, my ancient ghost soul and wolf buddy, could do what we do, just get away from it all. He's like 2,000 years old, evil, carnivorous, prone to howling at microwaves, and he lives rent-free in my head and as a ghostly being outside it. I let him in when diplomacy fails, which is often and ends up being very wolfy. Anyway, this village, utterly miserable, buildings leaning like drunks, people leaning like drunks, dogs leaning like... You get the idea. The only thing upright was a church, grey stone, did have a wonky steeple, and it had a huge sense of self-importance. It was so thick it could be used as insulation, and it was full of shiny things. Catholics do it so well. Inside, I found a child mummy in a glass box. It was dressed in antique lace, it wore a crown, and smelled faintly of oxtail soup. My senses are more powerful, you see.
"It's the little saint,"
whispered a woman who appeared beside me like a Victorian jump scare. She looked like she'd been left out in the sun and then buried for a decade as a precaution. Face like a raisin, you get it.
"She hears your thoughts,"
the crone said, eyes white as milk and twice as sour. I had to waft my hand as she spoke, because it was not only her eyes that were sour, her breath. God forbid. "I hope she's deaf then," I muttered, because I was thinking about the best way to steal everything and then redecorate this place using a flamethrower and a strong sense of nihilism. Other villagers began to gather, all in grey, all dead behind the eyes. They looked like the staff of, a haunted retirement home. I half expected them to break into Gregorian chant or offer me piss-weak tea. "She demands blood," one of them croaked. I sighed. "Whose?" sent Fen to my mind. "Whose?" I asked the gathered villagers. "The innocent," they said in the tone of sort of someone suggesting it as though it was a perfectly normal salad ingredient they were talking about. Ah, infant sacrifice, of course. I looked at the corpse in the glass box again. It twitched. I jumped a few feet backwards. Fenrir stirred. "Kill it," he said in my skull, the way other people would say, "Good morning." "Eventually," I replied, "let me soak in the ambience." That's when a man in red robes, clearly the village lunatic in chief, approached me holding a bowl of something squirmy. I didn't ask what. I don't tend to make eye contact with food that moves. "You must offer part of yourself," he intoned. "Sure," I said and offered him a fist to the temple. He dropped like a sack of sacred potatoes. Cue panic, crying, screaming, chanting, and in one case, spontaneous urination. Usual sort of thing. I let Fenrir rise. The transformation is instant. There's not this bones cracking, no screaming, just whoomp, and I'm a 9 feet of wolf-shaped terror in a bespoke suit shredded at the seams. One elderly cultist hit me with a candlestick. I returned the gesture by hitting him with a pew. Things escalated quickly. Arms flew, legs detached. I turned a choir boy into a splatter painting. It was quite beautiful to behold. Someone threw holy water. It sizzled and smelled like vodka. I made a mental note to visit the liquor store. Eventually there were only 3 left, huddled behind the glass box, chanting in Latin and wetting themselves in modern Hungarian. The puddle of both grew. That's when the child in the glass box moved. Well, more precisely, the thing did. Its mouth opened too wide, its eyes turned inside out, and a slithery little parasite popped its head out from it like a sock puppet from hell. "Sacrifice!" it screeched. "Absolutely," I agreed and bit its entire head off. It tasted like vinegar and upholstery foam. I've had worse things in my mouth, but that's another story. There was a bang, then a pop, then a sound like an entire cathedral farting itself to death. The glass shattered, the air cleared, the parasite died screaming something about dental hygiene, cheeky bastard. And then it was quiet. Just me, Fenrir, bits of cultists, and one very confused looking chicken that had somehow survived the bloodbath by hiding in the organ pipes. I, untransformed, picked my way through the mess and fetched my spare boots from the Bentley. They're Italian leather, crocodile skin, sort of tastefully understated, if you know what I mean. The village would recover, babies would stop disappearing, forests would bloom again, birds would return, probably singing songs about miracles and hygiene. And me? I drove off grumbling about the smell, the tacky iconography, and the number of times human beings tried to turn parasites into popes. Moral of the story? If your saint smells like beef jerky and demands infant blood, it's not holy, it's hungry. And if Will visits your church, make sure your soul isn't on the menu. It is expensive taste and very little patience. The Skin Farmer. A wholesome tale of dermal theft, celebrity wellness, and high fashion revenge. Picture: Los Angeles, the city of angels. That himbo Gabriel would fit right in. It's also the city of Botox, unlicensed shamans, and enough self-delusion to power a small dictatorship. I came here just for a jacket. Honestly, I did. Not just any jacket, a one-of-a-kind hand-stitched Italian-cut marvel made from the supple hide of something that probably didn't give its consent. A coat that makes like billionaires weep and Peter executives sort of spontaneously combust. I'd seen it in a fashion mag while devouring a hedge fund manager in Zurich. Instant lust. I must have it. The label: Vellum, artisanal regenerative leather, 100% humanely harvested. Which of course was like PR speak for someone probably died screaming. Well, naturally. Naturally, I was intrigued. Their headquarters were located in Beverly Hills, nestled between a raw crystal fertility clinic and a sex-positive juice bar. It was a sleek white building, no signage, very exclusive, very ominous, very me. "Fuck's sake," said Fen. He is truly enjoying himself when he's properly miserable, and he was properly miserable. I parked the Bentley, fixed my cufflinks, onyx, stolen, and walked in. The receptionist was blonde, bored, and genetically engineered to say no to people like me. She tried to give me a smile so fake that it should have been labelled synthetic. "I'm here about the jacket," I said. She almost blinked. The face lifts and Botox stopped her from completing the blink. "I'm sorry, sir," We're a private invitation only, and she looked me up and down. We don't typically cater to your demographic. Ah, I said. You mean well-dressed psychopaths with excellent bone structure? If you say so, she sniffed. Fenrir was laughing so hard in my head I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear what else she said after that, so I just left embarrassed. And came back an hour later through the loading dock wearing Fenrir like a tailored apocalypse. It wasn't subtle. The security guards lasted about 30 seconds. One tried to tase me. I tased him back with a claw through the pancreas. A second guard offered me a protein shake, which I took before beheading him. It was kale. Kale! Down in the sub-basement I found the truth. Human skin. Lots of it. Not in little sample swatches, no, entire slabs of it stretched and drying like artisanal beef jerky. Each one labelled with barcodes, genetic traits, and in one case, do not use, left-handed, plus freckles. There were vats of bio-goo growing dermis from stolen stem cells, cryo chambers full of tranquilized donors, monitors showing celebrities in Tokyo and Berlin wearing coats made from the thighs of refugees, all the good stuff. I mean it was evil, deeply unethical, and to be honest, it was mostly horribly styled. Honestly, I wasn't even mad about the human rights violations, not that I would be. It was the design choices that offended me. Faux medieval trim, beige accents, beige unethically ambiguous couture. No, absolutely not. Fenrir and I went full runway massacre. Limbs flew, alarms screamed. Somewhere an executive shouted, "Get the vat cloaks!" and was immediately disemboweled with a paperweight shaped like an endangered bird. In one lab, a pair of fashion interns tried to escape by throwing mood boards at me. One screamed, "I'm just a graphic designer!" I let him go. He had nice tasting fonts. The CEO, a shriveled old ghoul named Vargo Van Cleef, who looked like someone had vacuum sealed a raccoon, tried to bribe me with a pair of gloves made from an Olympic gymnast. I fed him into the dermal press. Then I torched the place, not for justice, but because it reeked of kombucha, burnt college, and just hate. As I walked out, singed, bloody and victorious, I passed the same receptionist, still at her desk, somehow alive. I mean, she couldn't look frightened because she couldn't move her face. She looked at me, looked at the carnage, looked at my new jacket, harvested mid-rampage from the most tasteful corpse I could find, and said, "Actually, that cut really suits you, sir." I winked. I know. I liked her. Postscript. The destruction of Vellum Inc. led to the collapse of the celebrity human leather market. Exposés were written, documentaries aired, ethical fashion became a genuine trend for almost 3 whole weeks. Thousands of missing persons were found. Survivors testified. A senator cried on live TV. Justice was served. I don't care. The jacket fits perfectly. Oil to ash. A cheerful tale of gas monopolies, werewolf vengeance, and the world's most expensive fireball. Surgut, Russia, home of biting winds, frozen rivers, and my old tribe, a pack of werewolves who swapped sacred blood rights for hostile takeovers and now control half of Eurasia's oil infrastructure. Imagine if ExxonMobil was run by fanged immortals with matching Rolexes and the emotional maturity of crocodiles. That's the tribe. My tribe, or rather my ex-tribe. We'd, had a bit of a disagreement. Something about, "Will, you can't eat foreign dignitaries during climate summits," and "No, the UN ambassador is not a chew toy." Honestly, I don't remember. It was a Tuesday. Anyway, they exiled me, and now they live like fat off the black gold and imported meat while pretending to be a respectable corporate empire. So naturally, me and Fen came back to ruin everything. That's what we do. We're known for, our pettiness. I didn't return with a fanfare, just a plane ticket, a forged ID, and a suitcase full of explosives, curses, and a fine bottle of 1984 Macallan. Because if you're going to commit arson, you might as well have a good drink first. My target, the Colossus Pipeline Hub. It's a sprawling, monstrous facility pumping 15% of the world's oil through its steel arteries. Heavily guarded, reinforced, full of boardroom werewolves wearing three-piece suits and smiles like surgical scalpels. I checked in as William Fenroth, freelance consultant. They gave me a badge and a cappuccino. Fucking idiots. Fenrir stirred outside the facility. He couldn't come in with me because the werewolves would have seen him. The facility itself, well, it was all humming energy, sacred geometry, and absolute sort of stupidity. "We burn it," he growled. "Yes," I said, but stylishly. Phase 1. Sabotage. I fed a virus into the control systems disguised as a wellness app. It asks users if they were drinking enough water while secretly reversing the safety valves on the mainline pressure regulators. Dead good. Phase 2. Distractions. I caused a minor HR scandal by seducing the VP of Operations and sending their browser history to the entire C-suite. Chaos ensued, marriages ended, one intern started speaking in tongues. It was beautiful. Phase 3. Detonation. At midnight, under a full moon, a whole bottle of scotch, I walked onto the pipeline like a catwalk, dropped my disguise, and let Fenrir in and let Fenrir rise. 9 feet tall, black as midnight, eyes like radioactive honey, a prehistoric engine of vengeance wrapped in fur and righteous spite. I was me werewolf. The guards saw me and, well, panicked. One shot himself in the foot, another shouted, "Don't eat me!" and tried to run directly into a generator. I howled a sound older than any language, and the metal trembled, and then I pressed the button. You've never really seen fire until you've seen an oil hub detonate from the inside out. It doesn't just explode, it screams, it keens, it punches a hole in the sky and the lights the night like God finally gave up and decided to start over. Boom! Flame! A giant flaming middle finger to my ex-family. I stood on the wreckage, smoke curling from my fur, bits of shareholder burning in the snow, and said, "Surgut sends its regrets." Fenrir laughed, a full-bellied ancient wolf laugh. It echoed through the pipelines and politics. Outcome. With the Colossus destroyed and half the board incinerated, oil prices skyrocketed. For a week, the world was in a beautiful panic. Then, something strange happened. People adapted. Countries accelerated their green energy plans. Solar stocks soared. Fossil fuel dependence dropped. The ice caps sighed in relief. A small Arctic tern winked at the camera during a nature documentary. Will, the werewolf, became an unintentional eco-hero. Postscript. We watched the global fallout from a penthouse in Istanbul wearing silk and sipping vodka that cost more than, well, some economies. Someone on the news called me the Green Grim Reaper. I like that. Sounds expensive. The Children's App. A tale of tech moguls, neural manipulation, and one very displeased werewolf with a vendetta against startups. The app was called Sprout Mind. Tagline, grow their potential, shape their future. Translation, rewire their brain, monetize their soul. It was on every device that any under 4-foot-year-old had. You couldn't swing a juice box in a Starbucks without hitting a toddler using it to learn shapes, colours and the joys of compulsive data surrender. I encountered it when my assistant's niece tried to feed me a plastic hamburger and then told me, completely dead-eyed, that the owl says touch the purple triangle or mommy gets sad. That's when I got interested. Fenrir perked up. What is an algorithmic bonding module? No idea, I said, but it sounds like a crime. Sprout Mind HQ was nestled in Silicon Valley between a vegan cryotherapy bar and a startup that sold premium air. The building was shaped like a lowercase e for some reason. Probably for eugenics. E for eugenics. Inside everything was white. The walls, the floors, the shoes, the people, the morality, and the privilege. I posed as a consultant again. Wilhelm Furstein, child behavioural specialist. My badge said mind play optimizer. I don't know what that means, but I'm fairly certain it's illegal in Canada. I got it from a job lot of second-hand bits from Epstein Island. I was given a kombucha and a tour. They showed me the nerve centre, banks of servers, psychometric models, brainwave charts bouncing like caffeinated stock tickers, and a mural on the wall read, "The future is soft code," whatever. Behind all this stood the CEO, Gavin Pinnacle, age 26, wearing a turtleneck made of recycled smugness, and he was an absolute pinnacle. "We're reprogramming attention spans," he said proudly. "Neural compression, symbolic anchoring, and gamified compliance." "You mean addiction?" I said. He laughed. "It's child-friendly, no ads. Well, except for the ones you install in their minds." He blinked. "I'm sorry." I said, "Your shoelaces are untied." They weren't. But he looked down, and that's when I ate his intern. Fenrir burst forward like black fire through a fibre optic cable. We became the wolf, all claws, teeth, and righteous indignation in a room full of ergonomic furniture. Security tried to stop me. They failed with incredible enthusiasm. One of them shouted, "Think of the shareholders!" and threw a tablet at my snout. I threw him through a reinforced whiteboard. I tore through the devs, the UX designers, neurohacker interns, whatever they were. Someone tried to distract me with a VR headset showing dancing ducks. I bit them in half. Down in the basement, I found the real prize, the empathy engine, a machine designed to hijack mirror neurons and emotionally condition toddlers through the stylized animals and synthetic music. "Unplug it," Fenrir growled. "No," I said, "we do it old school." I smashed it with a vending machine full of emotional regulation snacks. The backup servers tried to upload the code to the cloud. I bit the Ethernet cable. Aftermath. The destruction of Sprout Mind made international news. Parents wept. Children cried actual tears for the first time in months. Congress held emergency hearings on neuroethics. Everyone involved said, "We had no idea," and then quietly vanished into the tech shadows. Kids started playing outside again, drawing with crayons, imagining things without being told how. Childhood was rebooted. Sadly, by me. By a werewolf. Postscript. I watched a documentary about it later. A child psychologist called me a digital age Prometheus. Another called me an unhinged mass-murdering beast with the temperament of a trash compactor. I had to agree with both. Fenrir grunted. "Next time we eat Zuckerberg." I sipped my espresso. Slightly bitter. No, not him. He's no taste. He's a bit too stringy. And the final story. Meat for the meek. A feast of biotech nightmares, starving refugees, and a werewolf's deliciously awful solution. The camp was called New Dawn. An ironic name, really. A sprawling refugee settlement on the edge of nowhere, forgotten by governments but full of people, well, too alive to, be invisible. Food was scarce, hope even scarcer. Disease was a constant visitor, and despair wore more faces than a carnival funhouse. Humanity here was dying, slow, miserable, inch by inch. I arrived on a cold morning, trailing Fenrir as a shadow, and the faint scent of burnt oak and bad decisions. A group of children eyed me from behind the barbed wire, eyes too old for their years, hungry for something I wasn't sure I wanted to give. The camp was run by a biotech company called Vitagen. They promised salvation with nutrient-dense protein alternatives and sustainable bioharvesting. In reality, they were breeding lab-grown meat from human stem cells using prisoners' DNA. The food was edible but soulless. It fed bodies but starved spirits. I watched the camp's overseer, a man named Dr. Malkov, a thin, twitchy figure wearing ethical blindness like a designer suit, extol the virtues of this meat miracle, while the people grew weaker. I smelled the rot beneath the sanitized lab coats. Fenrir stirred inside me, a primal hunger not for food but for justice? Him? Or whatever passes for justice when you're just like, I don't know, an immortal killing machine. I decided to intervene, but not with diplomacy. No, that's for those who like waiting in lines. I became the wolf. black belt, shimmering, 9 feet of teeth and claw. The night was chaos. Vitagen's guards were ill-prepared for a being who, well, doesn't bleed, doesn't tire, and thinks social contracts are hilarious jokes. I tore through their labs, smashing vats of synthetic misery, smashing digital readouts, smashing the illusion of salvation. And when I found Dr. Malkov cowering behind a console, I offered him a choice, a quiet death or a contribution. He chose the latter. I forced him to consume the lab-grown meat made from himself and his ilk. The irony was, can I say it? Can I? Can I? Delicious. Outcome. With Vitagen's cruelty shattered, the camp was forced to rethink. They started local farms, communal gardens, bartered goods and rebuilt trust. The people found strength in soil, not science. Will, the beast who destroyed them, became their unintentional saviour. Postscript. I left the camp before dawn, wiping blood off my claws and wondering if maybe, just maybe, being a monster has its perks. Fenrir whispered, "You smell like humanity." I smiled. I'm working on it. Thank you for listening to Werewolf the Podcast. You've had an anti-villain's point of view about life and how he helps the needy. Sort of a reverse fairy tale. Please go to the description to buy things like merchandise from Odin Apparel. Please go to Grendel Press, where you can get all your horror book needs. Please enjoy life. Thank you. Goodbye.
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.